when the black gangs, the leadership in the black gangs in Chicago get fed up with the illegalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens, the city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame, and there's going to be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the black gangs in Chicago, Illinois, who are furious with the influx of the Venezuelan migrant gangs, specifically Tren de Agua or TDA. Now, this is going to be a problem. These migrant gangs are very violent. They're coming from a more violent place than anywhere in the USA. That second world, third world level of crime and violence is now into the United States. And they're being sponsored by the government, being given jobs and cars, no driver's licenses. They're getting all kinds of benefits, and they're violent. You got a bad combination, especially when they're coming to a place that already has problems. They already got crime and poverty and everything else. It's a dangerous mix. And if they don't put a stop to it, it's going to get really bad before it gets any better. Now, before I go any further, let's get straight to this news clip from New York Post. This is very good work from New York Post. Shout out to them. I will link to the entire thing in the box as always. If you're an IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
America has allowed gangs to enter our country.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now.
The city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame.
Gangs in Chicago are angry over the influx of migrants and criminals in their city. They say money that should be going to the African-American community on the South Side is instead going to what they call non-citizens, and warn that turf wars between Chicago's gangs and groups like Venezuela's Tren de Agua could see Chicago, quote, go up in flames. Photographer Matt McDermott and I traveled to Chicago's South Side to see what was happening for ourselves after we heard about a police report last month that the Tren de Agua gang had taken over an office building there.
Let's pause right here. Now, a lot of your city officials in places like Chicago, maybe even Aurora, Colorado, Denver, they're going to try to downplay the influx of the migrant gangs in Tren de Agua. Maybe they're kind of embarrassed by it. Maybe they don't really want to. They're embarrassed. They want to keep this news under wraps. So it's up to the independent journalists and people over at New York Post and other places to get down to the bottom of what's happening, because it's not about trying to attack migrants. It's about trying to protect Americans. That's really what it's all about. That's all I care about. Any other country, okay, hopefully you guys get it together. I'm concerned about my own country, first and foremost.
We spoke to a number of young, hardcore gang members, as well as gang elders who have retired from the life, and just regular citizens who are very much part of the community. And they're all furious at the estimated $500 million that's reportedly been funneled toward new migrants in Chicago since 2022.
Let's pause right here. They said $500 million in Chicago since 2022. So what? 500 million U.S. American cold hard cash dollars from the taxpayers of the area. Aren't you guys experiencing increases in your property taxes? Where is that money going? Just a wild guess. Why are your taxes increasing while you're spending $500 million in just 2 years on these people? Okay, and there was a study that came out from congressional Republicans that said on the federal level, the whole country, we spend $450 billion with a B, $450 billion every year on the migrant crisis, every single year. But I digress.
And they aren't happy either about what they say are Venezuelan criminal gangs that are leaving the shelters and spilling out into the South Side into abandoned buildings. I spoke to Tyrone Muhammad of Ex-Cons for Trump, who runs a street patrol and violence prevention program. He's gone straight since his days as an enforcer for the Gangster Disciples. And he said the situation is very tense on the South Side as turf battles between the local gangs and Venezuelan migrants heat up.
It is impossible to release gang members and criminals into our country through the borders and broken walls, and then infiltrate them in our community that's already impoverished, that's already broken, that's already disinvested. And when the black gangs, the leadership in the black gangs in Chicago get fed up with the illegalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens, the city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame, and there's going to be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets, blacks against migrants.
Now, what he's saying is right on point. As of right now, from what I'm seeing, there's not a whole lot of interaction between the Venezuelan and the Chicago gangs. There's not a whole lot of interaction. Maybe I'm wrong. If you guys know more, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys out there in Chicago, especially what's happening with the TDA and the GDs, VLs, all these people. Now, eventually, they're going to have to cross paths. They're going to have to clash. Eventually, if they've not done it yet, they will. It's only a matter of time because they operate in the same places. Basically, when they send these migrants to the United States, they're sending them, or they end up right in your community, right in the black community, right in a lot of these low income areas. This is where they're going to go. So there's going to be a clash. It's just a matter of when and how bad will the clash be.
Zach Massie did time in state prison with Tyrone Muhammad, although he's only 27. He's a leader on the streets and said he's disgusted by the money going to Venezuelan migrants at the expense, he says, of the African-American community.
I finally actually talked to him on the translator app, and he told me all the things that he got going on, how they help him get a car, apartment, clothes, link. So it's just like, I just be looking at it like they ain't got no Social Security number. Where they come from? He probably not even here legally.
They get right here, they get quick housing, quick funding, food. They get cars with no license. They can't even read English and stuff like that. So they get all these perks when they get here, and we still here starving. So what we gonna do about it? Are y'all gonna listen to our cries?
Nope, because here's the thing. Black community voting over, the black community, first of all, you're voting for the Democratic Party overwhelmingly, 95%, blindly voting for the Democratic Party, and they do nothing for you. So why would they do anything for you when they don't have to get your vote? That's the first. And the second thing, the black community in Chicago was seen as a burden. You guys are not seen as a viable investment. So they're going to invest in the migrants. That's not me saying it. That's them saying it. Because you guys are pretty much left out there to squander. Meanwhile, look at what they're doing for the migrants. Look at how much they are pouring into them financially from your money, by the way. They take your taxpayer money in Chicago, whether you black, white, whatever. They take your money and invest it into them. So they're telling you who is a priority and who is not. But again, I digress.
Corey Rogers was a Blackstone gang member for years. He drove us around the South Side and showed us areas where he said Trendo Awagwa and other criminal gangs are setting up shop and what he called showing the flag, which means brandishing their weapons in front of like a housing project.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now in this area. Right now, you don't see them because they come out at night. They said they took this courtway over probably about last week. He said it was 100 Venezuelans standing out in the front right here.
Terry, is it an abandoned building? How do they just take it over?
They just, when you take over something, you just stand outside, and that's called showing the flag.
What kind of guns?
Semi-automatics, anything you name, you're gonna see it on the street. These boys got so many big guns that if they're 150 pounds, the gun is bigger than them.
Now, I've also seen some fully autos. I saw a video out there in Chicago with some Venezuelans shooting fully auto. So they probably got Glocks with switches, or they may just have a fully automatic weapon that was already prefab like that, rather than having to add on a device, because they're getting the guns illegally, the same way they get into the country illegally.
I swear.
But they know how to handle it, right? They know it. Tell me about the fact that they're criminals, right? This is a criminal element. These aren't just a bunch of Venezuelans that walked over the border and used to be gardeners back home, right?
Right. They come from the gangland. They come from rougher gangs than us.
One gang member who only gave his name as David on a particularly dangerous drug dealing corner on the South Side did not hold back when he talked about the influx of criminal gangs from other countries into Chicago.
The real issue is that America has allowed gangs to enter our country.
gangs that they would consider acts terrorist groups that are formed here. We are terrorist groups if we're in a gang. They let terrorists in our country.
The Reverend Corey Brooks also said to me he's disgusted with Democratic policies and said that Black Lives Matter, for example, has never reached out to help him or anyone else trying to improve conditions on the South Side.
Yeah, where they at right now? Where BLM at? Remember them? Remember that whole thing from the 2020s and before that? Remember that? All they ever did was just get a bunch of money. Okay. Buy large mansions, black lesbian Marxists. That's what they are. Where they at right now when they really need it?
Chicago is a blue city. Illinois is a blue state. There's no doubt about it that the majority of our neighborhood, they're going to continue to vote Democrat until they wake up. The good news is that there are a lot of people who are responding and waking up and saying, listen, we're not going to take this. We're not going to stand for this. We're going to vote differently. And they're now accepting some of the values that I hold dear and some of the values that the conservative Republican Party holds so dear. And so for a lot of people, it's not about the person, it's about the policies that we're fed up with. And as a result, I think this is going to be the largest amount of people who have voted for a Republican president in Chicago that we've seen.
So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully you guys vote differently. And again, shout out to New York Post for the video. Again, the full video will be in the box so you can see it for yourself without my commentary. But I hope that with my man right there, Mr. I think his name is Corey Brooks, hopefully what he said is correct, that they vote differently in Chicago, because you see what your vote has gotten you. You see what, look, your communities are just in poverty. There's nobody to help. It's dangerous. People are dying for no reason. The violence is out of control. Then they bring in the migrants with their own unique third world type brand of violence that you guys are not even ready for. And they getting all kind of stuff from the government. Why are these people being funded by your tax dollars? It's bad enough, as I close, for the violent element to be ushered in on top of an existing violent situation. But then they get money from the government on top of that, more than what anybody, whether it be black, white, rich, poor, would get if you're a citizen. They're placing violent illegal aliens over regular everyday American citizens. It's crazy, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about what the current gang members and former gang members and regular normies said about the migrant crisis in Chicago, Illinois, with the Venezuelan specifically being a big issue? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. This is clearly a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. And I hope, again, that they vote differently and that they do differently, because this kind of thing is unsustainable. I would never do it. If I lived in a place like that, I couldn't. I would never vote Democrat. I would never vote for those who want to replace me or any of my fellow Americans. We're in this together. I don't know what they got to do, but they got to get up out of here. Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.